Hello, fun people. I'm Isaac Carlson, and on Following Dreams, I'm focused on exploring the stories of people who are following their passions and achieving their dreams. I want to help inspire you to pursue what you love by hearing how others have done it. Today, I'm speaking to a woman referred to as the internet's real-life Disney princess. After creating her own professional princess entertainment company, she went viral a little over a year later on mainstream media for her resemblance to Disney's animated princesses, leading to her amassing a following of over 100,000 followers on Instagram and transforming her life forever. While she was once a corporate marketer, she has transformed her life to become a full-time social media influencer. So if you'd like to become part of the queendom, you can follow her on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, which are all linked below. Welcome, Sarah Engel.
That was quite the intro. Thank you so much, Isaac. Oh my goodness. I feel like I just want you to, anytime I enter somewhere, you can just tell everyone for me. That was great. I love it.
Thank you. It's like you gotta boast up the guests that this is all the stuff they've been able to accomplish, because sometimes it's not always clear in the macro that you've really accomplished a lot of stuff. So I think it's important to do right away.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for having me here too, not just the fabulous intro there.
Well, thank you for coming on. I know that you've got a very busy schedule being a full-time Disney princess on your own. But so I'm glad that you're able to come on and represent yourself on here to tell your story. And so to begin that off, the first question I always want to ask guests is, what are you passionate about specifically? Because you do a lot of stuff. What motivates you to do all of it?
That's an awesome question. Lately, the thing that I feel like I'm most passionate about isn't even necessarily always just strictly Disney related, even though I feel like that's what people know me for. I love making videos, and the funny thing is I didn't realize that I loved making videos when I first started making videos. So I know you mentioned back in 2016 I went viral basically for my princess selfies. If you know, there's another YouTuber, Derek Van Shake. He and I own a princess party company together called Princess Ever After, and basically what most of these selfies that went viral were literally just me sitting in my car waiting to go into princess parties. And so these pictures go viral, and people ask what, they ask a lot of things. They want to know all sorts of questions, like makeup context, but they wanted me to start making YouTube videos. And I started making videos that other people wanted me to make. And I wasn't making videos that I wanted to make. I'd always liked the idea of YouTube, but I was always it's one of those things I feel everybody likes the idea of it, and they always think, oh, what if I had a channel? That'd be fun. But actually taking that step and doing it is totally different. So I took that step and I did it, and I thought that I hated it because I was making videos other people wanted me to make. I was not at all doing what I was excited about and trying new things. And so I remember one day, I had stopped making videos for a while, and I was like, you know what if I just made a video that I wanted to make? And it was a stupid video. It wasn't even something that I don't feel like it even has that many views. Sorry, I was getting an incoming call.
Oh, that's okay.
I don't know if that was my dad. He calls a lot, so hopefully he doesn't try it again right now. We'll call him back when we're done. So, okay, where were we? Videos. So there was a video. I made a video on making basically pink sparkly unicorn popcorn. My food videos don't do well, and I just feel like it would just be fun just to try and see if I can make pink sparkly popcorn. And the whole I wound up shortly thereafter kind of making the tagline for a while was basically create your fairy tale, and it's kind of more about it became about just, especially in the day and age that we live in, technology allows us to make a living doing things that whatever is on your mind. If you want to try something and do it, you can figure out a way to monetize that. And so I just started doing, if there's something I wanted to do, I would just film myself doing it, whether it's making pink sparkly rainbow unicorn popcorn or whatever. And I loved it. I loved the whole process of making videos when it was something that I was really excited about it, and just the interaction with the audience and getting to experience that with other people. So I know that was a really long-winded answer, but when you ask someone about their passions, I guess what else was you gonna expect?
Well, yeah, because it's something that you have to be caring enough about to constantly do on a frequent basis. So it's something that you have to be that excited about to be able to discuss for a long time. So that's what I expect. Is it something to get you like fired up? Because if it's not, then it's probably not something you should be doing.
That's a really good point.
So that's really awesome that you were able to find that. And it's interesting that it took so long to get to that point to be able to figure that out, because you've done a lot of things growing up, researching you and everything. You've accomplished a lot of stuff through your days. So
yeah.
But before all of that begins, how did you first get into Disney growing up?
So one of my earliest memories of Disney, since even before I even remember, there's a couple things. I guess like my mom and I used to watch Beauty and the Beast when I was like an infant. And I always hear this story about how one time we were watching it. My dad's a pilot, so a lot of times he would be like off on a trip. And there was a night that we were watching Beauty and the Beast. And it was like the Kill the Beast scene. And I was an infant, and we were like laying there, whatever, and like the alarm, the security alarm went off, and someone was like, we thought was breaking in as we were watching Beauty and the Beast. So it was that, and there's a Disneyland sing-along song, VHS, like those, like, it's just sing-along, and it was just the characters at Disneyland. You'd sing along with them, all the different songs, and those are some of like my earliest memories. It's just the characters, they stick with you. You're introduced, most people, I think, at least in the US, probably everywhere, introduced to these characters and songs and movies from such a young age that they just become a part of how you grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's totally how my experience was as well, is that it was something you just grow up with. And it's typically, especially being someone who cares a lot about Disney, it's always so foreign to hear someone talk about how they didn't watch Disney films growing up. That's something that it just can't really comprehend fully.
Yeah, it's like, what kind of child was that?
Yeah, like what did you watch for the first like 8 years of your life?
Yeah, it's like, what did you not know, like, what happens to Simba's dad? Like, what? How did this impact you growing up? Like, that would be a different existence.
Yeah, did you get that like secondhand or something? Like,
yeah, that's not something you want to find out secondhand.
No, you got to have the full dramatic effect of it.
Oh, yes.
So you got into Disney from a very young age, like a lot of people do. Yes. When did you start dressing up into costumes and everything? Because I saw in one of your videos you were very young and all dressed up in Easter outfits and doing things like that. Was that something like your mom did often for you guys? What's the story about all that?
Okay, so I think the Easter costume... Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think which Easter costume. Were we like the little kids in front of like a house? My mom just dressed us up in ridiculous outfits for Easter. Like, they had nothing to do with Disney. They just were like these insane frilly dress, and my sister and me. So I have two younger sisters, Emily and Faith. And Emily is like a year and a half, 2 years younger than me. And so we were always like, she would dress us alike, especially for Easter Sunday. They'd be like, I just picture this one like frilly yellow, oh my God, sorry, my voice. Frilly yellow outfits. And I didn't really have any specific Disney princess costumes. Not that I didn't want them. I loved playing dress up as a kid. And I did have one. I did have one princess costume, and it was Pocahontas. Because Pocahontas was my favorite. Like, she was on my birthday cake for like my 5th birthday. I loved her. But I didn't start. Okay, so the first time that I was actually in like Disney princess costume is I grew up doing music theater, and the theater that I performed with, and I just been Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz with them. They're called the South Carolina Children's Theater. And the following season, they had Beauty and the Beast as like their main like big show. They do a really big family show in the fall that's like the biggest kind of like name draw of the year. And that one was Beauty and the Beast that year. And the girl they had playing Belle, I was not in the show, but the girl they had playing Belle was busy. And so they needed someone else basically to be like the other Belle that would go out and like do appearances. And so they literally just like had another costume and they sewed it up to fit me. And I went out as Belle to do these appearances, and that was my first time, and I really wanted to do more of that. And I auditioned for a company when I was still in South Carolina because I really wanted to, but the costumes were just too big on me. I'm a really little person. And then it just wasn't going to work there, and I wound up auditioning for another company once I moved to Colorado, and I did work there for like a year before I wound up eventually starting my own company. And so the reason I even got into it then in Colorado is because there was a gap in there. So I went to grad school. I have a master's in marketing. I'm like a nerd child. I finished my master's when I was 21 and then moved to Colorado. Started working in corporate America in marketing. I worked at Western Union and Dish, like satellite TV Dish, which some of the places I worked at. And so when I was in corporate, I was like, I still need a way to perform. It was always for me, especially singing. I just needed somewhere to sing was really it. And I knew I always looked like a Disney princess. And this is like, you weren't kidding when I said I did a lot of things. I used to model too. And the thing with modeling was, I was always too short. Like, you've got to be like 5'10" to be like a successful model. And I'm not 5'10". I'm a lot shorter than that. I'm like normal height, but like, so Disney princess, I always look like one. Instead of trying to fight like what I look like, why don't I just do something where like it ticks all the boxes? I know I look like one. I know I sound like one. If I'm singing, I've been like, I'm so rambly. My sister, I just remember this time my sister was on the phone. I was singing in the background. I wasn't even singing a Disney song. And my sister's friend goes, "Oh, are you watching a Disney movie?" Or she thought she was watching like The Little Mermaid or something. And it was just me singing. It wasn't a Disney movie, but it was just, I was like, stop fighting it, just do it. And it just fit. It just fit because I had the big eyeballs. I had the similar voice, and I wasn't trying to fight who I was, and it just made sense. And I think sometimes it's like kind of back to your passions question. If you just follow what makes sense and trying to fit yourself into something that you're not, it's just gonna fit. Like, people are gonna sense that. You're gonna sense it. You're not gonna be trying to constantly fight something that doesn't work. And that doesn't mean you don't fight for things along the way, but if you just, sometimes it's the most obvious thing that's right in front of you.
Yeah, and that's really cool too, because it was something that you had experienced a little bit with the modeling. You had the Disney passion, and you also had a bit of an entrepreneurship background as well, correct?
I did. Oh my goodness. I've like all my embarrassing things I've done. Not embarrassing. They're all good. Like, I started my first company when I was in middle school, I think. Yeah, it was middle school. And I started a web development company, which is funny because then you found the error on my website. There's an error on my website. It's not done. It's just kind of sitting out there half finished because I've been rebuilding it to launch merch and stuff. But so it's just kind of sitting out there half done. But yeah, entrepreneur. I went to school for business. I had no intentions of basically becoming the internet, what likes to call me the real life Disney princess. It was not something I ever intended. It was kind of like a side thing. I would take pictures, just selfies in the car while you're waiting to go into like a birthday party. And the tabloid in the the UK, they ran an article on it one night, and I woke up the next morning and it was like blowing up.
Oh, that's just wild, because that wasn't even something that you were doing full time or like doubling down and trying to like make it happen like so many people try to do. That it was just something that you kind of stumbled upon, which often I feel like is how viral fame actually occurs, is that it's just something that you can't plan for. you can just react to once it occurs for you.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it was many years of practice in some ways, like with the photos and just doing something that I was passionate about, and like refining like all the makeup techniques, the photo techniques, like just basic photo editing, and putting years and years into having this massive body of work. So when people go and look, they see all these photos. It kind of reminds me of Brian. Have you had Brian on here yet? His story.
No, I haven't.
Oh my goodness. I heard like his story. I'll let him tell it. But it reminded me of that. Like in some ways, especially with him, seemed like this overnight sensation, which he was, but it was so many years, especially in his case, of like work that went into it that was what made it able to go viral. And he was definitely not intending to go viral. And I wasn't at that point. I feel like it's easier when you are not intending it and you're just doing something that you love. Even if it is work, that's what resonates with people. And it's just like this, the funny thing about all of it is then when now that you like, as soon as you try and make it, okay, like this is my job, you have to like have that balance between, okay, it's a job, but you also have to just make sure that you're doing what you love, because that's what people feel, that, and you feel it, and you're gonna burn yourself out if you're not doing that. And it's just, it's a balance.
Yeah, there's definitely a balance that has to be struck between the practicality of everything that you're doing, but also making sure that you're making everything fun and enjoyable for you throughout it all. And I feel like that's a very difficult balance to strike, especially once you have to start relying on it completely.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure you feel that like in what you do. You can tell you're so passionate about what you do, but you've got to strike that balance between like, okay, I've got to pay the bills, and I got to give people what they want, because you tend to know like, okay, this type of video, I know it's gonna do really well, but maybe you're like really passionate about this other one, and it's like maybe hopefully you can do both, but it's a balance.
Yeah. It's like I was really excited for a history of Lilo and Stitch I made. I was like, maybe this will do really well. It was a super long video. It didn't do as well as I was hoping, but sometimes you have to do those for yourself.
Okay, but I loved it. I love Lilo and Stitch. I watched her videos. I was watching some last night, especially like your Tangled ones, your Tangled the series content. Amazing. I'm also really a big fan of Tangled the series, so I'm biased there, but that was a good one. Lilo and Stitch is seriously underrated.
I absolutely agree. I feel like it's not talked about as much as it needs to be, as Tangled is, though.
Oh, my goodness. Tangled the series. There could be, just a whole podcast rant on why, it's so good and receives, no attention.
I know. It's completely swept under the rug. For some reason, there's not a Corona in Walt Disney World or Disneyland yet, but thank goodness it's coming to Tokyo Disneyland, I found out.
Let's just go to Tokyo then.
I completely agree.
Disney influencer, Disney YouTuber trip. We're all going to go to Tokyo and go hang out in Corona. Which is funny, we go to Tokyo to hang out in Corona.
Yeah, doesn't seem like the correct, the expected path, but it works. It works. But yeah, they've started to show little animatronics of Pascal and everything. It looks very cool. I'm very excited for that.
Oh my goodness. Animatronic Pascal. I want to see this. I haven't seen that yet. Have you done a video on this?
No, I just saw it from the channel DSNY Newscast covered the whole Corona. And because there's a bunch of new little videos of it and everything, it's definitely worth a watch. I think it's I'm very excited for that, even though I've never even been.
I want to see that.
But yeah, because that's how we originally connected, was through Tangled the series.
Yes. It's a good thing to connect. Anytime you meet somebody else who likes Tangled the series, it's instant connection. Because you're oh, you're one of us. You're one of the people who's actually seen this and knows how great it is. See, Brian and I, we met at Tracy. Well, okay, we actually met at Playlist Live very briefly. But we met at Tracy's. If you know Tracy and Jay Bunzy, we did the big Wreck-It Ralph collab last year.
Yeah.
And Brian was Wreck-It Ralph in that. So we met on the set of that, and I was Rapunzel. And at that point in time, I wasn't Rapunzel a lot. People tend to have me as Elsa a lot, or sometimes Ariel, and obviously Tracy's like queen of Ariel. And so I got to be Rapunzel for that. And so we started talking about Tangled the series. I was like, you watch it. And he was like, you watch it. And it's just like where you meet somebody who watches Tangled the series, it's like finding someone that went to the same school as you, but you're like on the other side of the world.
Oh, there's a small subset of Tangled the series fans on Twitter who refer to themselves as the Black Rockers. And I try to
see where that came from?
No, what was it?
Okay, so do you talk to Chris? Is it Chris Sonnenberg? Is that how you pronounce it? The producer?
Yeah, Chris Sonnenberg, I believe.
Okay, so he and I talk on Instagram sometimes, and whoever runs their Follow Pascal account, I talk to that person too. I don't know who it is, but I talk to. And so basically what happened, to my knowledge, it's what it happened on Instagram. Somebody was posting something, and somewhere along the way, I think Chris was the one who called it the Black Rockers. I screenshotted it, but it was like he's so just interactive and engages so much with the fans that like we all like, he retweets, he shares stuff on Instagram. He's very active on Instagram and like have these conversations with people. And somehow it's like there was a conversation going on about what would the fandom name be? And he was like, said something, somebody, I don't remember if it was him or someone else, said the Black Rockers. And as soon as Chris like gave it the thumbs up and the seal of approval, it was like, it's official. We have the executive producers sign up. We are the Black Rockers. And now it's a thing. I always put like hashtag Black Rockers on any of my Rapunzel photos because I want our crew to find it.
Oh, God, that's awesome. I love Chris because he first retweeted my videos when I started making content about the season 2 finale and everything. And I was like, holy cow. Like, I was freaked out. That the Tangled series creator was able to see me on Twitter. That blew my mind.
He's so nice. Like, you need to see if you can get him on here. I bet he would.
So, yeah, Chris said that he'd be interested in coming on for the premiere of Tangled the series. I'm very excited about that. And then what was the other thing you mentioned?
I don't remember.
I totally forgot.
I don't remember. I'm just excited for that. That's going to be amazing.
I'm so excited for season 3. If we could get a season 4 too, that'd be epic. But I've got a feeling it'll be the last season.
Well, maybe seriously, like I feel like they purposely designed the whole story to like fit within like the story, and like when the story's done, the story's done. But like my hope is maybe because we know that they go and have their little like happily ever after marriage at the end, maybe we can get another series that like picks up after that.
That sounds epic. I'd be fine for anything. I love everything they've been exploring, all the lore and everything.
It's so good.
I could talk about that all day.
Yeah, same.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. With the whole Black Rockers thing, I remember in season 1 just being like, I have no clue what to call these things. Like, all throughout my early videos, I was like, these are the black crystals, the black rocks, like the shards. I had no clue what to call them. But so I'm glad we just call them rocks now.
Yes, it's like it reminds me a little bit like J.K. Rowling, only Chris doesn't go and change things. It's like once he says something online, everyone's like, "Yes, this is it. It is now canon." It's funny. So definitely black rocks. That's what we're calling them.
Oh, yeah. I love that show, but I do want to get back to talking more about your story as well.
Okay.
So, with going viral and everything like that, then you still had your like original job as a marketer, and were you still doing the Princess Ever After as well? So, how did all of that develop? Like, what did you do after you initially went viral?
That's a great question. So up until recently, yeah, I was doing all three. Derek and I still own Princess Ever After. It's still running. It's still in Colorado, even though I'm living in California now, just because there's so many collabs and events and things. It's just constant. You almost have to be out here. Sorry, I guess you have to move out here now. I'm like, you gotta come out here. You don't have to, but if you want to participate in a lot of those things and be able to do collabs more easily, it makes the most sense to be here. But at the time, I was in Colorado. I was still working at Western Union. I was working in digital marketing there, and digital and social media. So like paid search, some of the SEO stuff, and social media for the U.S. And so it also ties in kind of. But so the Princess Company, luckily we have a lot of people that help. We have managers that help with things. So Derek and I don't have to manage that ourselves. In fact, we're pretty hands off, except for like if we like have turnover and we got to train someone new type of thing, and hiring new people. But so I was in corporate and I had the Princess Company, and at that time I didn't know that I liked making videos for a lot of that. So a lot of the time I was just still doing like posting princess photos, and I did shortly thereafter. I wound up with an agency that got me started back when it was Musical.ly. So I actually have a bigger audience on TikTok than I do on Instagram, which is almost kind of embarrassing. I feel like TikTok is a special place. And I almost never post on there, but for whatever reason, I started on there back before anybody was doing like the Disney characters. Like cosplay is now like one of the biggest things on TikTok, but they brought me in so early. No one else had done it there yet. And like it was so foreign to people that like the little kids that are on there, because it is mostly little kids, they were just mean. They would say like the most horrible things. And I was like, I don't know how I want to do this. And so I kind of died off of TikTok for a long time, or Musical.ly then. And I just started, I was still just focusing on Instagram. I feel like I felt lost for a long time because I wasn't feeling like just posting princess selfies wasn't what I wanted to do. And I tried like exploring other things. But at the same time, like I was like fighting between, I know I get like way better engagement if I just post princess photos. And it was like kind of one of those balance things, but you don't want to do something you're not excited about. And I feel like I floundered for a long time until I realized how much I liked making videos. And they're not necessarily all Disney themed, though I'd say recently a lot of them have been Disney themed, but it's kind of just all things. I almost think of like fairy tale lifestyle, kind of like if Rapunzel or a Disney princess were living in the modern world, what like their life would be like. They would be interested in all sorts of things. It doesn't all have to literally be Disney, just anything. I don't know. That's what kind of like the internet started calling me the real life Disney princess. I'm like, what do I just, I'm living my life. That's me. I just do what I enjoy. So yeah, it wasn't until, okay, so then there's like a point to this. I'm not just rambling. So I was still like lost and confused. And as soon as I realized I liked making the videos, I was still working in corporate, still at Princess Ever After, and all of a sudden, I was just like, I love doing this. I really want a way to be able to do this full time. It's like what I wanted to be able to do more than anything. It's like I love this so much, but I feel like in order to get as much out as I need to start like getting any sort of momentum on this, that I need to focus on it more. And maybe I can start coming up with a plan for how I can make the transition so that I can quit corporate and just focus on social media content, specifically YouTube, because before my focus had always been Instagram, and so my YouTube focus is really pretty new. And so I started planning this, how I was going to do this, and a couple weeks later, I got laid off and got a severance package. And I was so happy, and I felt kind of bad because like they bring you in this little room and they're like trying to be like, because most people are gonna be sad, like, oh no, you get laid off, and I was so happy. I felt like it was like this gift from the universe, and I don't think like almost ever been that happy. And I was just trying like to like just like okay. Just like and just hold it in, because I was so insanely happy, because like this is my chance now. I have like, because That's the scary thing is like, especially in that ramp up period, there's like almost no money. Like I think people think, oh yeah, in YouTube you make all this money. You don't make very much money until much later on. And even with Instagram and stuff, with brand deals and stuff, brand deals are essential. I mean, I know you know this, but I think sometimes people just think anybody's social media is just like rolling around in money. Especially in the early days, it's like the opposite. I needed that severance package to be able to work on what I wanted to. And so I'm just extremely grateful for that. And without that, I would not be able to get to do what I'm doing because I'm still in that ramp up period. But I know I'm building towards something, and I know that it's all going to be worth it. And I it feels every day, it like really feels worth it because I'm working on something I love so much. And even when you're working like really long hours like every day, and it's kind of hard to almost turn it off, it's almost like that line between, well, people are like, well, what do you do for fun? I was like, I don't know, I feel like what I do is fun. So it's just
I completely get that.
Yeah. It's like I don't know. Because even if I'm going to Disneyland now, because I live pretty close to Disneyland, I still, like, I wind up going and, like, photo shoot happens. And so it's, like, it kind of, the line between work and play blurs, which I feel like in some ways is a really awesome way to live. I'm like, yeah, you got to be careful with that. But I'm just so grateful because it just worked out.
See, when I got all right, little bit of story. A little while ago, I got recommended that video of, like, I got fired. And I was like, oh, man. I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. Like, what the heck happened? And I clicked on it. You're just like, I'm so happy. And I'm like, what?
I know.
Why are you so chill about this? I even had a question all written up. I'm like, dude, what happened with that? Like, so I'm very glad that you brought that up and talked about it, because I was trying to find where you talked about it more on your YouTube channel, but you were just like, I'm fired, it's all good. So I'm glad that you got the severance though, because that really could help you a lot.
See, the company I was working for at the time, they lay people off all the time. They just do restructuring, and they just like decide, we're just gonna give everybody a package, and they're like good packages. And I couldn't say a lot about it, especially at the time, because they make you sign a thing saying like, oh, I'm not gonna talk about it. But now I think it's like been long enough that like I can, well, I'm still not like saying anything. It wasn't that I did anything. So like I guess like in corporate land, if you're fired, it's because you did something bad. If you're laid off, it's just because like the company like they just restructure and they remove your position.
Yeah.
So, like, that's why I got, a package, and I was just super, like... And the funny thing is, this is not the first time that I've been laid off from that company. I got laid off... Yeah, okay. I guess I can say where it was, because it's kind of obvious. Like, even on LinkedIn. Like, I was at Western Union. Western Union lays people off all the time. They just do. It's like a fact. And so then I was over at Dish. Dish has a weird reputation, but they're a lot of fun. I got to work with Disney when I was at Dish because I managed their social media and all their programmer. From a marketing standpoint, I was like the point of contact. So anybody from any of like the channels become programmers. I was the person they'd talk to. So I would deal with Disney there, which was really cool. And then I wound up back at Western Union. And just because it was career, like it was a smart decision. And then I got laid off. And so I was like, awesome. I mean, I was there for a while before I got laid off the second time. But it's like one of those things, like corporate life, I think people like stress about it. But I'd had it happen before. I know it's a good thing if you're at a company that gives you like a lot of money to go like not work. Or in my case, work on something I wanted, but it wasn't going to be making any money for a long time. And luckily, the Princess Company, there's income from that too. But it basically, most stuff from the Princess Company just goes right back into the Princess Company. So I don't live off of that.
Oh, so that mainly goes to like all the workers and the managers and everything like that.
Just reinvesting in things. And we just kind of leave it in like in the business there just to grow it more so than I don't like. Yeah. I love the Princess Company. It's like my child. I can't get rid of it. Even times when it drives me crazy and I'm like, why am I doing this? I love it So I can't get rid of it ever.
That's that's so good though, that you have something that you like are still loving and that can continue to do its thing while you focus on the thing you really want to do now. I think that's really cool.
I think that's one of the things, like, if you can, okay, this is like kind of off topic, but there's a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it's a really interesting book on basically if you're able to create for yourself like sources of income that don't require you to be like working on it right now. So like things where people are like buying property or starting a business and then other people run it, things that don't require you to work on it, and it's just so you make money while you sleep. So that's your time, because as long as you're just doing everything by yourself, like your time is limited, then your income potential is limited. So that's kind of like the philosophy I have when I look at all this, and which is what's great too about YouTube. Yeah, you've got to put them out, but the nice thing is when you do have those big videos or any videos, they do continue to be out there making some amount of money for the rest of perpetuity.
Well, yeah, one of my earliest Disney videos was Scar's Full Story, and that video still is like one of the top performing videos, at least during this Lion King excitement period. Like people still are interested in Scar no matter how it is.
As they should. So, that was a good one too. See, I told you, I watched your videos. They're good.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoy them.
I thoroughly enjoy them. I feel like I don't really need to sell people on them. If they're listening to your podcast, they probably have like already seen like all of your videos. But just in case there's somebody who doesn't for some reason, they need to go watch all of them.
Yes, we got a lot of Disney content on there. Just a whole bunch. A lot very, very specific too. Animated Disney content is the bomb. That's what I care about. But man, so after the viral, now you're focusing on YouTube, what have been some of the opportunities that began to come your way when all of this began to happen and you started shifting more towards social media?
That's a great question. I think, oh my goodness, there's been so many. I think one of the big things is, as there tends to be spurts of like really big attention when things go viral, and you've got to take advantage of the things that happen during those spurts to try and keep the momentum going. You can't let it dip or be like, oh, I had this big moment, I can relax now. Like when you got to, like, what is it, strike while the iron's hot? Anytime like there is something big like that, take up all those opportunities. I know, so I did this.
Oh my goodness. So this live action Tangled, I don't know if this is one of your questions later or not, because I feel like it's something that everybody asks about. It is related to your question about opportunities. But basically, what started as the intro for a Rapunzel makeup tutorial, I just got like really extra, and it evolved into its own thing, almost kind of like a trailer for a live action Tangled. And so Brian was the voice of Flynn Rider in that. So that, I was really lucky that he worked on that with me. What was really cool is we did that, and Good Morning America then shared it, which was awesome. And I'm now, okay, so like I haven't like officially announced this yet, and we can tell people I'm working on another project that's kind of similar, but it's gonna be like even better. I'm working with a lot more people on it, and I think I've learned a lot from before. So I'm hoping maybe Good Morning America will pick this one up again, because it's exciting. But yeah, there's lots of just opportunities to meet people that you're really that you've always, well, like I like Tracy Hines is now like one of my best friends, and which is funny because she's somebody I watched on YouTube for so many years. And it's weird now almost thinking about it, because now I just see her, I'm just like, oh, it's Tracy, she's like my friend. And then you think about it, like, wait, but I used to watch like way back in the early days of Hipster Mermaid. It's just cool how it brings you together with so many people that are excited about the same things that you are. So yeah, there's the things like Good Morning America and stuff, but I think what like that's the coolest part about it though is just the people. And because when you're getting like more attention, you're really diving into something
that you like. You get to meet like people who also like really dove into something that they're really passionate about, and if you're meeting through that, it tends to be a lot of the same things, if that makes sense.
No, I totally understand what you mean, where it's like I met Tracy and like Mr. Cheesy Pop and Strawberry 17 at Walt Disney World to promote Kingdom Hearts 3. And that was like, it was so interesting to talk to other YouTubers who were like all so passionate about Disney. And that's something that you can't like get a lot of the time, especially if you're not in California. Lots of people aren't making content, much less about Disney. So it's very cool to have those connecting moments. So that's really cool that was something that you were able to take advantage of and be able to meet a lot of cool people, because that was something you mentioned about California, is that it's the place to do collabs and to meet people.
It really is, and it's just nice to be able, so like a lot of like the princess crew, you see us in a lot of our Instagram pictures together, like Tracy and Amber and Shell and Kayla and just so many people. I'm afraid if I start listing people, I'm gonna get myself in trouble for not listing people. So I'm just gonna stop. But it's nice that when we do like go to Disneyland, for instance, because we're all like we're content creators, we understand there's like this shared understanding that you go and you basically do a little mini photo shoot before you like carry on with what you need to do. And if you tried to do that with most people, they would be really annoyed. Like, and you would feel bad too, because you don't want to have someone just like standing around waiting while you're like, okay, sorry, we gotta like take photos now. And it's like an ordeal. Like when you like to have true Instagram pictures that really do well, those don't happen by accident. Like it's like okay, you can do it on a phone. You don't necessarily have to have a camera, though I will say most of the time I am walking around with my camera, like fully DSLR, mirrorless camera. But just being able to have people around you that get it and do the same thing is so relieving, and it feels like more like it's okay, the group is doing it now, so you don't have to feel bad about doing it. It encourages each other to do it more and to do better, and it just works. I would feel really bad for somebody who like was hanging out with us who had no interest in Instagram, because it just becomes like you kind of in a lot of ways gotta document your life through it, and so it would just be annoying to them, and I don't want to annoy people.
Well, yeah, because that's been something I've been trying to do more of, is trying to take pictures and grow Instagram, because I see that as something that's much more important than I had been in the past. And so yeah, it's been an interesting road trying to like go on trips and like take pictures all the time and do stuff like stories and stuff, because it's totally foreign to me. Like I'm comfortable sitting down in front of the camera talking through my scripts, but it's just like completely different. And that's really cool that you have like the support structure of other people who do it, because that it always makes it easier.
Absolutely.
Whether you're in school or whatever.
And it's a hard balance, because you want to be able to be present and be there. And I think that's what's nice when you are with that group, is just to take like a lot, like 15, 20 minutes, maybe up to like a half hour. You knock out all of those, like the pictures that you need to do. And then maybe every now and then you do a story, and it becomes way more manageable, versus if you feel like you are trying not to inconvenience other people and you just want to try and, okay, well, let's try and get one, versus it becomes the group activity. It makes such a difference. It's really hard. Instagram is next to impossible to do it by yourself. It's why they always, the joke about the Instagram husbands. And I will say, too, it's also for you, it's harder. I feel like Instagram is harder for guys. It's like, it's just supposedly, like, YouTube, I don't think this is necessarily true. Supposedly, males tend to do better, like, their channels tend to do better on YouTube. And the reverse is true on Instagram. But I feel like definitely Instagram, because there's, like, so much, like, stuff that stereotypically like girls tend to be drawn to, like there's like the clothes, the makeup stuff, just for whatever reason, I think it's hard for guys. There's very few like male Instagrammers. A lot of like the males they like that are big on Instagram, it's because they're like an actor or a YouTuber or something else, and they also have an Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's something I hadn't even thought about, because I've thought that as well, that it's like it mainly seems like all the people that are dominating Instagram are all women.
Yeah.
But I didn't even think about also that there are really no men that are doing it primarily. Yeah. That's an interesting observation.
There's a few, but a lot of times it's because like they started off like dating a female Instagrammer. Like, or they do sometimes like hiking, fitness stuff. Fitness I can see, but there's very niche. One of the keys on Instagram is a lot of times being able to be niche enough, but still appeal to a broad audience. Like Disney is actually a decent one to be in, but a lot of those niches are typically more female, like the fashion stuff, the beauty stuff. It just lends to it.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of the stuff that gets promoted on Instagram is more related to those things like beauty products, more so than all of the male oriented things on like YouTube, where it seems like lots of things are pushed, like streaming services and like LastPass and all those types of things.
Yes.
Wow, we went on a very long tangent about Instagram creation and stuff like that.
Sorry, I'm one of those rabbit hole people, so pull me out of the rabbit hole if you need.
No, it's no problem, because I mean I find it interesting to see how like your thought process is, because I don't really know anyone who does Instagram so like intently and is so like thoughtful about it. It's pretty much just if people are doing Instagram a lot around me, it's just because they just want to, but it's not something that's like a career like how you've been able to grow it. So I think it's interesting, in my opinion.
Oh, well, thank you. Instagram and I are like go round and round. I proved the other day, so because I went viral, here's a weird thing. I think I might have told you this. Instagram, they do, and I proved it the other day. They unfollow people from me. I was at over 120K like 2 or 3 years ago, and now I'm back at like 100K, and I've been up and down over 100K like 5 or 6 times now. And I proved it the other day. They unfollowed one of my own accounts from me. I have a photography account, and they unfollowed me from me. And I was like, what? I had to go refollow myself.
Social media platforms, they are a tumultuous place.
Yes, sometimes it's kind of scary. But if you have an audience that's loyal to you, they will follow you regardless of the platform. I hope.
I agree. Please continue to follow us. So you've been able to grow what you're doing and able to do quite a bit, especially with, all the people that are around you, and be able to feed into doing all of that. What has been your favorite opportunities that you've been able to receive by sharing your enjoyment of Disney parks and Disney and everything like that?
Ooh.
What are the cool things you've gotten to do?
Cool things that I've gotten to do. I've been invited. I feel like some of the TV stuff that I've been shown. Oh, I did. It didn't air, but I did get to go on American Idol, and I even got to sing. I sang Part of Your World, like part of it anyway, with Katy Perry. Because of social media. They found me through social media, and I was so sad it didn't air, because that was insanely cool. Who even like meets Katy Perry? Okay, so like it was nuts, totally nuts. Also, it's just I think a lot of us meeting people, like some of like the TV appearance things, and then through meeting people, you get invited to like just events. You see this sometimes. I'll vlog them. Like you get invited to like, oh, you get to see this such and such a thing early, or they like will send you free stuff. Or when the new Disney, there's like these designer Disney fashion dolls came out, they invited us and gave us like free dolls. And the other day I went to
through social media. This New York Times best-selling author just wrote a new book called American Royals, where basically the premise is, what if George Washington had accepted the throne when people wanted to make him king, and if there was an American royal family? And so she wrote this book, like kind of like this what if world, and so I got invited to her book launch, and it was like this really nice lunch, and I got to like meet her and meet all these other great people. I know it keeps coming back to meeting people, because that to me is like one of the, when I said the cool things I get to do, I feel like they usually revolve around me. It's either like you get free stuff, get to see things early, or you meet cool people. And for me, the people are definitely the best part. Does that answer that? I feel like maybe I don't do anything cool enough worth talking about. I don't know.
I think that's absolutely fine. I think those are real good answers. That I think it becomes clear that you're someone who values people and the interaction of meeting these people and being able to come off of ideas with one another and do things like that and to learn about that. I think that's just indicative of who you are as a person. So I think that's just coming through.
Well, thank you. I would like to think that. I would like to think I'm more interested in meeting people than getting the free swag. Honestly, sometimes the free swag can get to a point where it's overwhelming. Like, if you start getting too much of it, you like feel bad because you're like, this is so nice, but I don't know where to put it. Like I get like, and I got like, oh, I was really excited. So was it Danielle Nicole bags, the handbags? They gave me this tangled like lantern purse that it's shaped like a lantern. It looks like a lantern. It's like, it's so cute, and I've been wanting it for a long time, and I got that. So that counts as a cool thing. They sent me that. I was happy. Sorry, I feel like my voice is disappearing. I should swallow. Sorry.
No problem.
Just had stuff.
Congratulations on getting the purse.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
Yep.
And I got verified on Instagram, so I was happy about that. That's a cool thing. I was literally so happy when I saw I got that stupid little check mark that I jumped out of my chair and ran around my living room.
Hey, you building for it for a long time. You gotta be excited.
Yeah, I definitely was.
Now that it's become clear that you've been able to truly establish yourself, you've been able to meet a lot of cool people, was there ever a time where you thought you wouldn't be able to keep going to get to this place?
Definitely. I think a lot of last year was a struggle. I think sometimes it's a lot of different things. Sometimes it's trying to do too much on your own, and you need other people, and you need to surround yourself with good people in order to be able to accomplish things. The really great things, there's almost nothing of like real true value that doesn't require like both work and a lot of times help from other people. And it's not any knock on yourself to accept help from other people. It's just I almost think it's more like too prideful if you think to yourself like, oh, I can do it myself. There's so many things that took me way longer than it should ever have taken if I had just ask for help, and surround yourself with. I keep focusing back on people. Apparently, you're right. Apparently, I'm saying something about myself today. But it's not something, especially YouTube. I think historically, people always think of it as doing it on your own, and even if it's just one person on the channel. I think a lot of the really, really successful channels, the more you find out about it, they surround themselves with good people. It's not any one person doing it all by themselves. I'm sure there's somebody out there, but usually there's like a team of people that are there making it happen. And so I wish I had learned sooner to get help, just because you can do something yourself. Like, I love working with cameras, and I'm like such a nerd about it. I love just a lot of the really technical stuff, but in order for me to be on camera and get as much stuff out as I need to. I need to sometimes like relinquish some of that control and give it to somebody that I trust and I know will do a fantastic job. But just because I can do it, I think sometimes I thought that too. Like, I don't know if it's like just me being like, well, just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I'm not good at cameras. Nobody ever said that. Like, it was just me in my own head. And I can still be good at them, and I don't have to just always be the one operating everything, if that makes sense. I can still know about them, enjoy them, and nerd out about them, even if I'm not always the one behind all the technology all the time. But best believe sometimes I still am. Even just some of my vlog stuff, I nerd out about it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I think that's really cool that you, again, have been able to reach out to people and build that connection and giving up that freedom of always being able to do everything yourself and relinquishing some of that control. But because you've built other businesses before, I'm sure that probably helped a little bit, correct?
Absolutely.
Because you kind of went through that process of relinquishing control over time.
And I hadn't thought about it like that, but you're right. Like with the Princess Company, I do not have that day-to-day hands-on control, and it does better when you're able to find people and trust them. It kind of, like, oh my goodness, we're going back to like the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, where you can't, if you are continuously trying to do something all by yourself, you're limiting yourself and your income potential and all of that just to what you yourself and your hours in a day can do. And as soon as you're able to bring in other people, it's like it's synergy. You got the 1 + 1 = 3, and eventually there's a point where it starts to be almost too much. But if you can find that balance of having just a few extra people to help you through, you can accomplish so much more.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's something that I remember hearing a lot in my entrepreneurship classes and things like that. But I still haven't done that at all.
It's hard. It's really hard. I used to have I had an editor back probably like a year or more ago, and we got to a good point. It didn't wind up working out with like our schedules and stuff, and just what sequence I needed. But it's hard, and it takes a while to train people unless you're like really lucky and happen to have someone who's like fantastic. Like I'm working with someone really fantastic right now who did Brandon Toy, Song Stuff for Life. He does a lot of Tracy's things, and he's helping me with my videos right now, and that's the only reason, because I do 3 a week now. And some of them, like, I spend so much of the week just like preparing for some of those videos, and I would never be able to get out 3 a week by myself. With the type of videos I do. I think there's some types of videos that people could, but just like, especially like DIYs and makeup tutorials, sometimes I'll film those like all day, much less the preparation that like went into them. And it's just, yeah, I couldn't do it alone.
Yeah, I can't imagine making 3 videos a week on a consistent basis. That's
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. In fact, when I'm done here, I've got one that's literally sitting uploaded right now. I just gotta go finish like typing like all the description and stuff. So when I'm done here, I'm gonna go put up it's a DIY Aurora crown video so people can learn how to make their own Sleeping Beauty crown.
Ooh-wee. Man, dude, that's funny. I just talked about Sleeping Beauty on Tuesday.
I saw it, and I was like, that's so appropriate.
Oh, so much synergy, man. It's just so good. So, it's been interesting to hear about, your journey, talking about being able to connect with people, grow what you're doing. But now you're to a place where you're trying to grow something again. Where do you see your journey going in the future? Like, what do you want to become if everything went well?
That's an excellent question as well. I see about it more than just building something on a particular social platform. I really want to build a whole brand around like this idea. I know, like, say, like the Queendom. And for me, it's about kind of what we talked about at the beginning. Is creating the life that you want, creating the story that you want for your life, and creating a brand around that. So I would love, like, right now, as far as a social platform goes, YouTube is my focus. I feel like that's the place where you build the strongest connections with people. And we've evidently talked about today, I like building connections with people.
whether I get to see them face to face or not. I want to really continue to focus on that. I'm focusing also on bringing in, I would say bringing in revenue, but it's not even about the revenue. I have a lot of clothing designs that tie in with it that originally kind of started as merch, and it has evolved, and I've been talking about it forever, but I finally, I got the website, not the one that you saw, but it's like a subdomain of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's working. I've got the integration. I built the integration with the supplier and everything, so I get to explore some of the other creative aspects of myself, and I want to tie it in kind of with the channel too, almost have inside jokes, almost be able to be on the merch, design things that are a lot of something Disney bound-esque things, and be able to take some of the creative ideas I have in my head and bring them into people's homes with them. A lot of times things people can wear, shoes. This is a pair of shoes that I always wear that are inspired by Rapunzel, and I wear them all the time. People always ask where I got them. I designed them, and so now I'll be able to sell those, and so other people can have them too. So I just want to continue expanding the brand, not just online, be able to bring stuff into people's homes, and just really, I want to be able to do more on YouTube, because I find that people who we just have such a great community on there. It's awesome, and I can't wait to see it get bigger. I was joking about the population of the Queendom, so that's kind of what I'm thinking of my subscriber count as now. It's the population. How much bigger can we get this?
That sounds really exciting. I think that'll be really cool. And I think your vision makes a lot of sense with what you've been pushing, or where you've seen yourself going and what you've been interested in. The way of building a merch brand and tying that in, it all makes a lot of sense with what you've been saying. So I think that's a really cool direction that you're going down.
Yeah, and I'd like to, and as YouTube grows too, I'd like to, because I used to do Music Monday streams where I would stream every Monday singing, and it just became really hard with YouTube. Demonetized basically all of them, even though it was just me playing the piano and singing. Because I don't own the music, but to be able to do more music once there's more of an audience there to listen to that as well would be a great way to bring in more people. And it's a community. I feel like song and music brings people together, and so that would be a great way to tie it all in too.
That's something that I've realized more and more in the last few years, is that one of the things I connect with the most with Disney is all of the music.
Yes.
And so now I've got a massive 12-hour playlist of all the Disney music that I care about. And I go back to that and listen to it a lot, especially during the week when I'm making videos and everything like that. So I completely agree that music is something that can really tie people together. And you've already released 3 songs, correct?
I have. Wow, you did your research. I have. I feel like my perspective on things has changed a lot since those, so I don't usually push those a lot. And I didn't, and even though they're original songs, I didn't write them, even though I'm the only person who's recorded them. I really want to, and I have stuff that I've written. I just have never released it or bothered to record all of it properly. So I would love to do some of that, but that's almost a career path of its own. And I don't want to make that my entire focus. But singing has always been, that's what brought me into a lot of the princess stuff anyways, was the reason I auditioned for that princess company, where I got, the first one where it wound up leading me into starting my own and then taking those selfies that did go viral. It was because I wanted a place to sing. I wanted a place to perform and particularly sing. And it's not something I need to do every single day for other people. It's probably something I do every single day for myself, but to still get to be able to bring that in when I want it and make it something that I enjoy so much. When I went to college, I had to decide, do I want to go and study music theater or do I want to study marketing? And I opted to study marketing because I wanted to leave the music theater and music as something that was enjoyable for me. And this way, I feel like it carries through now, where I can still make that something that's enjoyable for me, share it with people every now and then, but I still have a platform for it, but it's not something that I have to take and almost taint it in a way, because music is,
for lack of a better word, like almost spiritual. It has a connection with people on a deeper level. And I don't want to make it to taint that. I want to be able to keep it something that I enjoy and just bring it in every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's almost like in some ways full circle, where I get to still keep doing that now, and something that I am really passionate about, and building something like this queendom, building it and growing that population. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's what I think is really cool with doing these types of interviews and talking to people, is seeing the continuity over time of that every decision they made is centered around certain things. Because I discovered that with myself when I self-reflected on creating YouTube and getting interested in video and getting into Disney and everything like that. So it's cool to see that continuity with your story as well, that it all kind of occurred because you wanted to find an outlet for music and be able to explore that, and now you still can, only now you have like an audience of people who will support you while you do that. So that's really cool. It
is really cool. I hadn't thought of it that way. You're very good at this interviewing. I think some of it ties in probably with like your Disney research. You're very good at finding those patterns and things, and it's very insightful. I like it.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think one of my favorite things that I've enjoyed to do with Disney videos is to find those themes throughout stories or like a character's life, and to see how it all connects into a more beautiful story. Because a lot of times, especially with things that people don't enjoy about Disney films, that's something I especially like to try to like explain into like, no, this is still good. Mm-hmm. Like this is still like pure and holds true throughout the story. So I find that to be very fun, and I appreciate you recognizing that.
Well, of course, I think it takes the true Disney fans to recognize the full beauty in all of it, and how it does have way more meaning than I think a lot of people initially assume that it does.
I absolutely agree. That's what I try to do, because I know there's certain Disney channels that, you know, try to expose the truth behind it, or like this is the dark truth, but I quickly learned that was not for me. That I want to boast the brand more than try to crumble it.
Honestly, that doesn't seem very you. You don't seem like the exposing type.
No, not at all.
You're like, today I'm exposing something wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this movie that you didn't think was good, trust me. You're not a fan of the Disney Junior Lion Guard show? Let me convince you otherwise. That's like, I'm making a video for tomorrow. A character literally died in a preschool show. There was a warning at the beginning of the episode. It's epic.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But it's been great talking to you, Sarah. I've got one more question for you, though.
Okay.
I want you to tell the listeners what you feel is the number one advice of how they can follow their dreams.
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, so number one advice on how you can follow your dreams.
You've been given a lot of advice throughout the whole episode.
Okay. So, I'm trying to think. Okay, so I'm going to try and tie this in a little bit with, I was thinking of a video that I'm working on making about telling people how to get your happily ever after. And so it ties in quite nicely with this. And it's a little bit different than dreams. But I think one of the things, this is like getting like really deep, but one of the things that brings humans happiness is solving problems. And so when you're going through times that you feel like this is challenging, this is a problem, just think like a lot of these Disney characters, the part of the movie, like the movie part of their life you see isn't their happily ever after. And that's for a reason, because they're always just like we do. We look back at those times that are really challenging and we realize how much we learned and growed through them. And so recognize that your dreams and your happily ever after and your happiness is not a destination that you're trying to achieve and something you're trying to check off. It's all about the journey of getting there. And so if you can learn to appreciate that journey, even though it's
it sucks sometimes, and it can be really, really difficult. Just know that anything worth accomplishing has those moments. Otherwise, everyone would do it and it wouldn't be worth it. So just appreciate the getting there and recognize that solving those problems is part of what is going to bring you happiness. It's not just checking off the box, because once you check off a box, it's just going to be what other next box are you going to check. You got to appreciate your story, because it's like back to like I always talk about I got rambling. It's back to what I was talking about, where I said my channel tagline used to be create your fairy tale, or like create your story. And it ties in so well with Disney. There's a reason why the story focuses on all the hardships, because that's actually the beautiful part.
Oh, that was very well said.
Oh, thank you.
I think that's a really cool perspective, because I think a lot of the times Disney films are thought about just the happily ever after portion of it, and you're right that there's always a lot of hardship for the characters before they get to that point.
Exactly.
Before they hit that inflection point.
Exactly. And I think people focus so much on that happily ever after, and there's a reason why like the parts we all remember are not the happily ever after. The story isn't the happily ever after. It's always what happened before that. And if we could just see that in our own lives, I think it would make people happy, not just ever after, but happy along the way.
Mm-hmm. Happy for much longer portion of their lives.
Yes. Yes.
Rapunzel found happiness, and she was locked in a tower for 18 years, guys. She found happiness being locked away.
Exactly. She's like one of the happiest people for basically being a prisoner her whole life. And I think it's because she solved all those daily problems and just found the beauty in the journey, or in her case, the lack of journey.
Sad.
But yeah, I think it makes her in the series like appreciate her journey so much more, because that is kind of what she always wanted, was to go on a journey. And even though it was really hard and she goes through so much traumatic stuff, like she recognizes, and that's I think why she's able to be so positive throughout all of it, is because she recognizes that is what she wants. That is part of like her reason for being. We got really deep.
No, I think it's interesting, because I feel like for people to do something different, to fully follow their dreams or figure out what their passion is and pursue it, I think there has to be a structure in their mind for the reason they're being able to go against the norm to go after it.
Yes.
So that's what I find interesting about always asking that question, because that's something I always ask at the end, is because I want to figure out what the mindset is of the people that are doing these things and actually going to live their best Disney life or work at Disney or do whatever.
I like that. It's because you're always going to have problems. Even in the people that are happily ever after, they're going to have problems. I think like your happiness comes when you're happy about and you like the problems that you're solving.
Yeah, because you're trying to build something better for yourself.
It's like what problem, like what problems are you worth, like what problems are worth fighting for almost. That's like where happiness is, because there's never going to be a life without problems, but you do find like really like this almost like self-actualized true happiness when you enjoy solving the problems that you do have.
I feel like I think that rings true especially for me with like relationships, because you know, especially in Disney, they can seem very simple, but that's especially something where it's like day in and day out complications, or at least there can be. It's not as simple as you could think about it, or you know, you can envision it to be something much more simple than it actually is, but you're building something constantly.
Absolutely.
Well, Sarah, I've thoroughly appreciated being able to talk to you and hear your story and get your perspective on where you're going and how you were able to build what you've built so far. So I thank you so much for being willing to come on.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. If you ever tangled the series one that doesn't involve Chris and you need like a person to invite, I'm always here.
All right. That sounds good. I'll hold you to that sometime.
Okay.
Especially like if this, you know, this continues through all the way season 3, you know, someone's got to come and talk about the finale, because I'm sure it's gonna be an emotional ride.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I'm prepared for this.
I don't think I am either. Oh, but Sarah, do you have any other final thoughts or things you want to tell the listeners?
I feel like I really just like poured everything out there with that last one. I don't know if I have anything left.
All right, that sounds good. To all of you who are listening, if you haven't seen Sarah's work before, you can find links to everywhere she is on the internet in the description. And if you enjoyed this discussion, let me know by rating the podcast and subscribing. Also, it would mean a lot if you follow me over on Instagram at WatsoVideos and considered supporting this show by supporting me over on Patreon, which will also be linked below. To all of you fun people who are out in the world, thanks for listening and have a